Do you smile even when you're sad? Well, all I know is my Angelou was one of the most radiant, smiling women I've seen when reciting her poetry, when speaking and talking and sharing her wisdom and her thoughts about life. But underneath all that radiant smile and joy, the more you discover there is this feeling of sadness beneath that smile. There is a feeling of the blues. And today we're going to explore that side of Maya Angelou. She names the sky her own. Good morning and welcome to Lost for Words. I'm Sarah Woods. We're still exploring great women poets. Today it is Miss Maya Angelou. So today the poem we're going to explore came about because I just recently finished doing this self-portrait. And when I started the self-portrait, I used a picture of myself that was very intense and serious. And after I finished painting it, I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I look actually a little bit sad in the painting. But I was like, oh well, whatever. And so then when I started to share it with people, the first thing that they would notice about it is they're like, oh, you're not smiling. You should do one where you're smiling. And I guess I never realized how other people saw me. I guess it made me realize that people saw me as someone who was always smiling, and they were used to me smiling, and they wanted me to keep smiling. And seeing this painting, I could tell it made them feel uncomfortable with me not smiling. Like right now I'm laughing. And so it made me think, okay, I was like, what could I do? What could I do with exploring Maya Angelou's poetry that might have that same contrast, smiling and sadness? I wonder, I wonder how many people actually smile even when they're actually sad on the inside. So when I started to explore her poetry looking for this, I started to notice that she has so many poems that really are have a sense of the blues, that are sad about them. And even though when I think of her, I think of this radiant, strong, smiling, beaming woman, it made me realize that sometimes beneath that there is so much more. So I just picked one. There's so many poems I could have picked. I actually was starting to get overwhelmed with trying to choose one that could show that. But this one that I picked, it's called Why Are They Happy People? So I'm going to read it to you now. All right. Why Are They Happy People? It's on page 231 in Maya Angelou, The Complete Poetry. Okay. Skin back your teeth, damn you. Wiggle your ears. Laugh while the years race down your face. Pull up your cheeks, black boy. Wrinkle your nose. Grin as your toes spade up your grave. Roll those big eyes, black gal. Rubber your knees. Smile when the trees bend with your kin. So we have this poem and it starts off with the title is a question. Why are they happy people? And so you're like, okay, why are they happy people? Like, is she asking a genuine question? Is she being sarcastic? But we have this question, why are they happy people? And so then she starts off, and this poem feels like it's given from the place of like giving a command to me when I read it. She starts telling someone what to do. And she says, skin back your teeth, damn you. Wiggle your ears. Laugh while the years race down your face. So when I think of like skinning back your teeth, like I think of smiling. I could not find like hardly anything written about this poem. So, or a lot of her poetry, honestly, like summaries and things. So a lot of what I'm going to say right now is just based off of my own feeling when I read it. And it makes me think of like somebody being like, smile, damn you. Wiggle your ears, laugh while the years race down your face. It makes me think of crying, and it makes me think of aging and like wrinkling. And then she says, pull up your cheeks. And now she starts to like talk to a specific person, and she says, pull up your cheeks, black boy. So she has targeted this poem, or this part of this poem, towards a boy, and he is black. As you know, my Angelou, she is black, she's African American, and so you start to feel that this poem is being pointed at people with that heritage, with that skin color. She said, pull up your cheeks, black boy, wrinkle your nose, grin as your toes spade up your grave. So she is telling him to smile as his toes dig up his own grave. Roll those big eyes, black gal. So now she's brought women into the picture. Rubber your knees. I don't know. Roll those big eyes. I'm guessing, like I'm trying to picture because of what she's described in the previous little stanzas, the smiling, like skin back your teeth, wiggle your ears, laugh while the years race down your face, pull up your cheeks, like that feeling of smiling and wrinkling your nose and grinning. So now when she's talking to this black girl, she said, roll those big eyes, black gal. When I first read that, I was like, what does that mean? But I think it's like that feeling of like laughter when your eyes get big, and rubber your knees. I am like, maybe when you laugh, you slap your knee. Like, that's what I'm imagining. I don't know, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. If you have another thing that you feel like that's actually pointing towards. But then it says, smile when the trees bend with your kin. So this whole poem, it's very short, 3 little stanzas, and it's about smiling, grinning, laughing. Yeah, it's mostly about smiling. And it's pointed towards black boys and black girls. And says, laugh while the years race down your face. That makes me think of crying. Grin as your toes spade up your grave. That makes me think of dying. Smile when the trees bend with your kin. It makes me think of a time in history when we were moving from where black people were moving from slavery to freedom, and there was still like a hatred, white people towards black people. It makes me think of a time in history when black people were like lynched by like a mob of people who would decide to take justice into their own hands if they felt like someone was guilty of something. And it was fueled by a hatred for Black people. And Maya Angelou, like, she's African American, she is Black. She sort of like turns the poem towards everybody else. Like, you don't really feel like it's about her, but like, you know that it is about people that are included in her race, her skin color. And she's like, smile, Black boy, roll those big eyes, Black gal, smile when the trees bend with your kin. Like, to me, this is a really interesting poem to write. It's not just saying, like, she's not just trying to show us, like, oh, look how terrible this injustice was. Look at this pain that these people, these dark-skinned people went through. It's not that. Like, you could write a poem easily and describe all the injustice, and you would be horrified and be like, oh my gosh. But on top of that pain, on top of that injustice, there is this person in this poem. I'm like, is it her? Is she supposed to represent somebody else? But there is this voice that is saying, skin back your teeth, damn you. Wiggle your ears, laugh while the years race down your face. Pull up your cheeks, Black boy, wrinkle your nose, grin as your toes spade up your grave. Roll those big eyes, Black gal, rubber your knees, smile when the trees bend with your kin. There's this pressure from this voice that is like, you're watching all this terrible stuff happen. You're watching all these terrible things happen to your family, your kin, your race, people that look like you, but you need to keep smiling. Like, there's this weird, twisted, like, command and pressure to smile even though you're being treated terribly. Smile even though something terrible is happening. And for Maya Angelou, like, she was born in the late 1920s. And I think in 1919 there was, I can't remember what it was called, but I know there was like a huge lynching of Black people. I have no idea how long the mob mentality lynchings happened, but she was literally, like, if not born when it was happening, like on the edge of it. Like, so I feel like Maya Angelou was raised in Arkansas, like in the deep South, where that sort of like racial injustice, like feeling hated because of her color, like, was sort of very fresh, and still there. I don't know. So the idea of being lynched in a tree wasn't far off, like, the map for her, like, view of the world. It makes me wonder how many people have tasted that feeling of experiencing injustice or experiencing pain or experiencing trauma or experiencing violence, but at the same time feeling the pressure to keep smiling and acting like everything is okay. I don't know. I think that's a very interesting thing to think about. I have a feeling that there are people all over the world, you know, from people from the darkest color skin to the lightest color skin, who have felt that feeling, that societal pressure from some voice that is saying like, okay, that's all, like, even though everything's terrible, like, you can't stop smiling. Like, I don't know, it's a weird thing to think about. Like, have you ever thought about like how society would work, like what it would be like if people's faces, like if you went out and about in life through your everyday life, and your face always matched how you felt on the inside? I think that's an interesting thing to think about. Like, with how many people struggle with depression, like what if those people didn't find a way to put on a smile as they went about their everyday life in public? Like, it almost makes me think of like some kind of like weird survival technique of like making it in the world. Like, smiling is your way of like coping with the terrible things in life. Like, yeah, I guess I'd be very curious what people think about this. Like, is it a lie to smile even when you're sad? Is it wrong to smile even when you're sad? Does it contribute to injustice? Does it contribute to injustice to smile even when terrible things are happening? I feel like there's something almost abusive, and you can totally like, I don't like, I'm somebody who just like talks off the top of my head to think through things. So if I say something that you're just like, oh my god, that's awful, you can go ahead and argue with me. Like, it's highly possible I'm wrong, because I'm just thinking out loud. But yeah, this voice to me almost like that feels almost abusive in a way, like telling someone like that they're not allowed to feel their feelings. Like, you need to keep smiling even though you're in so much pain. Like, it feels like that, that like denial of reality. That's what it does feel like. It feels like this voice being like, yeah, like reality might be terrible, but you're not allowed to express your sadness about it, your rage about it, your your feelings. It has that feeling of like a mask. Heard my Angelou say this before, in some of her videos, that she talks, I feel like laughter was a really big deal to her, and being able to make fun of things was a really big deal to her. I almost wonder if it was like a survival mechanism for her, because she said, I remember there was one time she was like, honey, like if you don't laugh, if you can't laugh about life, if you can't figure out a way to laugh, then you'll die. You'll surely die. Like that kind of mentality, that there was something about her that ascribed like joy and laughter and finding humor in things, finding a way to smile, like as a survival technique. That if you like let yourself, like if you really let yourself feel and get swallowed up in all the tragedy and all the injustice and all the pain of whatever, like the suffering of life, it'll kill you. I don't know. To me, that's an interesting thought. I'm like, will it kill you? Like, will if you really let yourself feel all the pain and rage and sadness that comes with seeing injustice, with seeing terrible things, like, will it kill you? Like, I don't know. Love to hear your thoughts on, like, Maya Angelou's experience, her experience of this feeling with Black people, African Americans, and I'd also be interested in your thoughts on this from just a purely like psychological perspective of that idea of smiling and laughing through pain, like the denial of pain, injustice, like that mask of smiling. I don't know, but anyway, who knew? So like, if you were to paint yourself without a smile, would it surprise people? Would they be like, that's not you, you're not that serious, you're not, I don't know. So I actually decided to, because of people's response to this painting, I decided to name it Smile, because I liked the contrast of like, I'm obviously not smiling, like in that like command, it almost feels like a command, like smile, like why aren't you smiling? I don't know, I think it's interesting. Anyways, thank you for joining me. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you again next time. Goodbye.